Yeah, let's go. All right, we are alive. We are active.
Real life on YouTube?
We're live. What's going on?
Not much, man. Just kind of hopped over. But yeah, hopped over from the Instagram Live, and we're here. I'm stoked. Do you want to kind of go into what we're going to be talking about today on your channel?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And just to preface it, like me and Kyle have talked about this for probably a couple weeks now. And I think we'll probably end up having content both on my channel and Kyle's as well. We just put it here because it's a area to put it for now. It'll be on its own playlist. But the whole idea of this, guys, was to get together with another person like Kyle who does this full time, does this for a living, and try and bring some information that we think not necessarily might be missing, but like that people want to know, right? Like whether it's like you mentioned, Kyle, whether it's creating content for just making your fishing pictures look better, or capturing your experiences for just because of the heck of it, because you enjoy it, or rather it be maybe you're dabbling with thinking, hey, I'd like to start a little freelance on the side, and I don't really know where to start and such. So there's just so much information out there on YouTube, and a lot of it is tailored to a more broader perspective of gear reviews and stuff. And although we'll touch on that, Kyle and I really wanted to bring kind of a series together that helped someone who is looking to specifically kind of create content in the outdoor world, where to start and answer those questions that we might have had when we were starting. Because, and Kyle will attest to this, I had not just one, but many people help me out when I was starting. And then when I decided to work on my own, I had another person that was vital in that. I just there's a lot of people that helped us along the way, so it's only respect we pay it forward. But
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, I think we can probably get right into it, dude. I mean, like I said, I don't want to go because this is me recorded video. We're gonna keep this on the channel. I don't want to go too much into like the broad part, but the topic for today is the best camera setup for under $1,000. And Kyle and I talked beforehand. We kind of have two options that we're thinking now. Before we go too in depth, and I want you to lead off with the first piece of equipment that we're going to talk about. But before we go too in depth, we want to both stress that this is something that's very opinionated. In other words, like there's not one right answer. This is just a way we see it going, and a way we even have experience it going. So just because it's something that we said doesn't mean it's like fact. That's your only option. You have to buy this or you're done. Like there's other options, guys. Above all, one thing that we want to stress is that it's about creativity, about putting the time into learning a craft, and then getting creative with the product that you have, or the cameras that you have, whether it be your cell phone or an old camera laying around, or like whatever you got. There's so much you can do with it, and there's so many creative people out there that do so much with so little. That is more important than just a gear sense. But again, we thought we'd go over a couple pieces of gear. I actually have some in front of me that we can show you. But Kyle, why don't you go over? Well, first, just introduce yourself, because I feel like even if some people came from the Instagram world, they might want to know who you are. And yeah, dude, tell me about yourself, what you do, and then let's go right into the first piece of equipment.
Yeah, so I shoot professionally for photo and video, but I shoot for Brandon Palaniuk on Bass Tour. But then I also shoot for other brands. I shoot for outdoor brands, Urban Armor Gear, which isn't necessarily a hunting brand, but it's an outdoor brand. I shoot for a lot of outdoor stuff. And that's kind of my demographic. I've never considered myself a fisherman until 2 years ago, and now I'm kind of low key addicted. Yeah, I'm trying to get better. But no, I started out filming a couple of years ago, and just progressed. So like basically, kind of what we wanted to go about here is like how to get started in the filming industry. What is your first thing you would do if you were to buy a camera? The first thing you would buy, and it varies for everybody. And like we were saying too, is like buying one of these cameras or whatever we would recommend is going to make you the best filmmaker. That comes with experience and time. Mm-hmm. But I guess kind of just jumping right into it, I would say, through what we discussed, the GoPro route is a great route to start. If you have never picked up a camera, even if you picked up a camera a little bit and maybe you shot some photos and everything, and you kind of know your way around a camera, but a GoPro is something that if you're truly just trying to capture an experience, is a great tool to have, because you don't have to worry about tons of settings. You don't have to worry about necessarily if your audio sounds, perfect, it's crisp. It is a great, great, great beginner camera. It was my first camera, my first video camera,
Mine
and that
too.
was yours too. So it's like
Yeah.
they're just a great tool to have if you're looking to capture content. They do great with photos. They do great with video. And a lot of times now, like with the GoPro Hero 8, the hyper smooth is incredible. So your stability while you're filming is just absolutely insane. Yeah, right there. Like that thing, it is a beast. It's absolute beast. I know like a lot of anglers, that is if they're gonna have one camera, that is the camera they'll have. And even as a filmmaker, like I think it's an incredible, incredible tool. It's durable. You don't have to worry about it getting soaked and rained on. So I would say like especially if you're on the boat filming yourself, a GoPro is a great, great tool to have.
So like because I think there's a million one like tech specs on here, I'm not going to go through it. This is a GoPro Hero 8. I think this is probably one of the most underutilized tools in my arsenal. I use it very rarely, and I don't really know why. I think a lot of people have a preconceived notion of like, oh, just GoPro footage and it looks kind of crappy and it's one single position. Guys, like if like we had it on a goal, maybe that's what me and Kyle do one of these days. Is like, you know, you put your money where your mouth is. You and I will go out and like film with one of these things and make like some crazy thing with it. What Kyle touched on earlier about it's about the time and effort you put into the creativity and the thought process and the experience you have with it. That's what's going to make this thing an insane tool. Yes, you can strap it to your corner of your boat and you can have it riding on your motor as you're rowing in the lake, like you've seen a million times. But guys, if you do a little bit of research and figure out what people are using these things for and the options from stills to some of the slow-mo stuff to the hyper smooth that you touched on, it is absolutely insane. It's got touchscreen back to it. They're really rugged. You don't have to worry about, you know, like water, right? You buy this $1,000 rig we're about to talk about, and like the first thing you think about is like, I don't want to get like a drop of water on it. Well, these things are waterproof. They're almost indestructible. There's just, I think GoPro gets a lot of shade because it's like it's been around for a while for like a specific like action camera use. And I'm telling you, with the different settings you can go on here and look into, there's some really silly things you can do. There's linear mode to make it look like not as much of a fisheye, more, you know, centered in. There's 4K stuff. There's hyperlapses, right? I mean, like that's a whole other genre that I don't even really mess with that. Like you can do some insane things. You can, from the vlogging, from the audio, they always upgrade the audio every time you're in here. Every time they upgrade a unit or whatever. Like there's just so many things that you can do with this little camera that people almost feel like, I feel like they almost feel embarrassed to like, oh, I don't want to make a GoPro like my thing. But dude, I'm telling you, you could do some amazing things. So maybe me and Kyle have to, like I said, get together and show people really what this thing is made out of. In terms of older models, Kyle, we talked about, I started on a Hero 3 Black was my first one that I bought. I used a Hero 2 from my brother who had one as a snowboarding thing. And I mean, all the way through even high school and all the way through college, all the way through like literally less than 4 years ago, I was like making edits on this thing, like on GoPros and trying to add cool music to them. And I remember the Hero 3 Black came out with 240 frames a second. And then you could do 120 frames a second in 1080. And I was like, it was all pixelated and I colored the crap out of it. But dude, I was like moving and like ice auger turning and like slow-mo and like, dude, I can't stress enough how much of a tool these are. They come with all kinds of tools. Most people know them. Like I said, they're not really going into detail for them. All kinds of attachments from, you can pretty much stick it wherever you want to, again, put them on gimbals and put a linear perspective on it, shoot in 4K and actually have a decent picture. So, just really good option.
Yeah, they're an extremely versatile tool. Like kind of what you were going into there. And I have the price. What is it? $299, $300.
I think they're like $299 full retail, but like, yeah. I mean, when I looked before we started this, and it was all, it was like every deal was like $299, and for a brand new one, like Hero 8 Black was $299, and that's just silly.
It's absolutely insane. And I mean, even if you do that, if you're trying to stay under the $1,000 mark, that's going to save you $800, or $500. So in money that you can spend elsewhere, whether it be in audio, if you want to do, you know what I mean? Like there's other little things you can spend it. So that gives you a lot of versatility. Bang for your buck. It's hard to beat a GoPro. Like bang for your buck. It's hard to beat a GoPro.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't. Like someone will say, well, my phone, well, like, dude, if you bought a phone for like filming, like it would be like $1,000 phone, like just for filming. And one thing I'll touch on real quick, not that we need to go crazy into it, but Kyle, I didn't even think about until now, is like, for depending on what kind of like content you're looking to create and what your purpose is. Again, we kind of talk about all over all over the place, from guys that just want to better their content they have now for making cool pictures. Let's say they want to get into it because they want to do a freelance thing, whatever it may be. This will let you grow a lot. But the mobile options, like having an app that you can pull content from, most people, my guess is probably have an iPhone unless you're an Android guy, but like you have an option to pull media down, edit it on your phone, and post it directly to social like right away. And versus like some other DSLRs and stuff like that, or mirrorless cameras or big rigs, you're looking to plug stuff into a computer, having to buy an editing program, paying for the editing program, all that kind of stuff. So like there's actually some advantages of having a small rig that is easy to be set up and like instructed that way. And so again, it might sound like, okay, of course they said GoPro, but like I know for a fact I do not use this to its fullest potential, like 100% no. And I need to. Even if you're talking about it gets me excited to do it. But like I've seen some people pull some stupid stuff off with GoPros, and that just goes to show you that you don't have to have an Epic Red or an $80,000 rig to make absolutely insane content for social and such. So yeah,
I agree.
Number one.
I agree. And like you said, like it is a tool. Yeah. But no, do you want to go into number 2 now? Do you want to kind of like touch on this is a higher priced camera body, and we'll have a camera. This is more of like, I would say it's maybe more of your intermediate, and maybe you've shot with a GoPro before, but you're trying to step up to like a next level of, hey, maybe I want my image to look a little bit more, I want a blurrier background, or I want to shoot interviews of myself talking on the boat, or I want to shoot stuff of like, going out hunting or anything in outdoors. Like this is maybe just the step above a GoPro in terms of production. But with that, it comes more settings, which is going to be a little bit more difficult for you to understand. But it's basically it's not a plug and play like a GoPro. And I'll let you go into it a little bit more. The next option above a GoPro.
Yeah. And I think one thing we talk about too is it's a building block, right? It's a guy that has a GoPro. Maybe you don't even have a GoPro, but like you see some video and you're hooked. You're like, I need to get used to this. I want to do this. I want to get full in. Whatever your budget is, I know every person is different. So like, don't think that we're saying you have to go one way or you have to build your way up. Some people want to hop into a nice rig, and like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's something to be said about the guy who takes his time and works his way up and owns that one craft or that one product or that camera and then goes from there. But like, again, whatever your budget is, this is fine. This is I have in my hand, this is an A6500. It's a Sony mirrorless crop censored camera. I'm not going to go too much into like about like what crop sensor versus full frame, and how we've talked about that. We're going to do that in the future. But this is a part of a camera that's part of a series. It's the A6000 series that Sony has. They have an A6000, A6300, an A6400, which is actually the newest of them all. And then this one, the A6500. So it's a little confusing there. But as you would imagine, the higher the number, the more specs or the nicer the camera is. So the one we're talking about is going to be the A6300, the A6000, or really any of them. But I think this one retails for a little over $1,000 brand new. But I don't have an A6300 to show you. But they look the same. They look almost identical. They just have a few less specs. But what it's going to let you do, and Kyle, feel free to chime in anytime here because I can go on a rant here. But what it's going to let you do is it's going to be that difference between having a specific angle and a wide angle and not have anything that be able to like interchange lenses to really a setup that full transparency, guys. If I shot on this camera with the lenses I have now, again, lenses, a lot of my lenses I have with enough batteries and rigs, most of the content that you guys see on a daily basis, you would not be able to tell the difference. And I say that reluctantly, but at the same time, it's true that this camera can do some stupid things from 120 frames a second when the A6300 and up. So the A63, 64, 65, 120 frames a second, which will give you that nice slow-mo. The color profiles that Sony is notorious for. I have a hot shoe here that will interlace with the UWP mic systems from Sony, or just your normal systems, like from a shotgun to an internal. You can hook monitors up to these. You can put. I have 4 or 5 lenses that I could probably grab right here that are really nice lenses that you can put on this mount because it's a Sony E mount. It might be an entry level mirrorless camera, but what it allows you to build on, and it kind of sets a standard for what to build your skill set on in the entire Sony lineup. Is it does everything. It really does, from stills to video to everything. So I would say we could go over like drawbacks of something like this, but more than anything, I really just think that this is this is the camera for the guy who wants to start creating content and be able to switch different lenses out for and build a platform. Not that you have to decide whether to go Canon or Sony or Nikon or whatever, but when you go with a body like this, you can build off it. You can buy a lens that works for this, but then the next camera you get, the next, let's say you want to buy the full frame, the Sony A7 III or the the R series, A7R series, like you can build the same lenses off that same Sony E mount. So it really does open up a lot of doors. I have recommended this camera to probably a dozen people who have asked, but like specifically, I know Benny, a guy I do some shooting with who does a lot of kayak fishing, does a lot of stuff on Instagram, is a content creator, but didn't want to buy a full giant rig. I recommended the A6000 or I think A63 and he bought it. Maggie Carcello, I do a lot of work with, and she's just trying to get into video and photo and get better at it because it intrigues her. But like, same thing. What do I recommend? This setup. It just does a whole lot of basic stuff all the way to the stuff to be able to build on. And I say basic, I see someone comments like, you stop speaking English, and that's kind of what I was afraid of. But like, I don't know. I mean, like, dude, it allows you to build a program, and if you can master this camera, the same things that takes to master this camera is the same things it takes for Kyle and I to shoot the best stuff we shoot with our bigger cameras. And I guess that's the main point, right, Kyle? I mean, it teaches you the basics and opens up settings that allow you to really master the art of shooting, and then build on it from there. So
yeah, I think obviously
chime in.
Yeah, no, I think honestly, kind of like to reverberate what you were saying too, is like talking about cameras in the terms of like, it can be very complex, like the stuff we talk about in terms of like knowledge of like what something is. The A6300 is probably the best camera to start with if you're looking for an entry level mirrorless camera. And that basically what that means is you are using a camera. The size is actually still very small, but it allows you to change the lenses. It allows you to kind of have a little bit of a different aesthetic to your look. And that is important in terms of what the look you're going for is. A GoPro does great, but this will give you a little bit more in terms of style. You can color it different. You can use different lenses. You're going to have a different look rather than just a wide GoPro look. You'll have like a more detailed look too. So that's a key to what the difference between a GoPro and a 6300 is basically you can change lenses. That's essentially what you're going to be able to do. That's different, and those lenses are going to give you a little bit different aesthetic in terms of having a blur behind you. So like what you're seeing behind me would be, if I was shooting on like a 6300 with a different lens, would be a blurrier background, and I would be more in focus. It's like, if I was to say it, it's like portrait mode on your iPhone. And basically with the 6300, what's the price that it runs at? It's
so
like,
that's why I grabbed a quick one off. I didn't mean to leave you there for a second, but
no, you're good.
Well, I'm on Amazon right now, and I think the A6300, they don't make like brand new anymore. I think there's still some for sale that are new or used. And all these models we're talking about, guys, are models that you could go into used if that fits your budget better. You get from a reliable source, whether it be like a used camera store. Most of them, I have yet to have a really bad experience with buying used gear. A lot of it is just can be taken care of. They're made to last. They're built well. But this camera, an A6300, which again looks identical, with this lens, which is a 16-50, that'll retail for, if you can get it new, around that $600 mark or like $700 mark. Used, maybe even less than that. And I just, again, I'm looking it up on Amazon here. And this lens, a 16-35. That has to do with its millimeter of how wide and how narrow you can zoom in and out. So it is a lens that you can zoom in and out with. The 16 is wide enough so that I could plug, I'll do it on here. I could plug this in and spin it around and vlog with it. So once you put it on, you could turn it around, have it on a little stick or something and vlog with it, because 16 up is wide. Yet if you get to 50, I can zoom in. I'll be able to get nice and close on some things, whether it be you're trying to make some nice B-roll and some camera movement, or you're trying to zoom in on a landscape as you're going over something. Like, I mean, there's all kinds of options, right? But it gives you diversity with that, and that's the basic kit lens it comes with. That package together, like I said, between that $600 to $800 mark I've seen between new and used is what kind of you're looking for. Kyle, I have another lens here we could talk about too. And again, we to talk about what lenses we recommend, it has to do with what you want to do, right? So a wide lens for vlogging is important. Something with probably autofocus on it is important. A lens like that, 16 to 50, gives you a range option. Some people say, hey, I'm not using this for vlogging. I want to create some really crisp cinematic stuff, and I want something that's got a low aperture. So like I want to get like a 50 prime. There's options that we saw on there. I saw there was an aftermarket Rokinon for like, it's like $400, I want to say, which would put you right around that $1,000 mark, depending on if you're buying extra batteries and such or whatnot. But bottom line is, like we mentioned, guys, that Sony camera, that mirrorless, has 6300, will allow you to open up an entire new realm of possibilities with lenses. To give you guys a perspective, this is one of the lenses I use on my big camera. It's a 7200. This is one it's a lot bigger, but it's meant for the same program, right? This fits on that camera. Like, you could put this on there, no problem. So to be able to have an entire arsenal of lenses, from maybe more entry-level stuff that's less expensive to the highest you want to go, I could still use them interchangeably. And that's something I really enjoyed about the Sony line. And that's why I went that direction. I know, Kyle, you shoot on a Sony as well, right?
Yeah. Yep. And kind of like, I want to reiterate kind of a little bit what you said earlier, is like buying used as your first camera isn't a bad option.
Not
it's like it's something you're gonna lower kind of your overhead and your risk, I guess you would say, like in your first camera purchase. Instead of it being, you know, a $1,000 camera, you can get one for maybe $600 used. Or if it's $800, it's usually like $100, $200 off. And there's, through B&H, is who I buy a lot of my stuff through, and maybe you do too. B&H Photo Video, they have a rating system of how good that used gear is. So that's important too to look at. But like you said, like I would like to stress one thing, and you hear it a lot when people get into photo and video, is if you're going to invest in anything, invest in the lens that you have, because that will give you a better look. It's going to look like, we're going to say it's your bokeh, but it's your aperture. How look into the lenses, and this is something we can't tell you exactly how to do it, but if you want to look into it, you will invest into your lenses, and to get yourself a better f-stop, a better aperture, which is the same thing as your f-stop, and then that gives you a bokeh. And I want to try to say it in more layman terms, but it's one of those things, like, you'll have to do a little bit of research on your own to understand more so. But that is the best advice I could give you, is probably to invest in lenses over your actual body. Your body's your workhorse. It's going to give you like how you can shoot, if you can shoot in slow motion and stuff like that. But like the look you will have, you can, and you've seen it, like you have a entry level camera. And if I was to shoot on, you know, my A7R or A7 III versus, you know, the 6300, the image we have in good light, if we have the situation is great, like in any of those things, it's going to look very, very similar. Like the images will be super similar if you have, and maybe even better depending on what lens you have. Like the lens is everything. So I would say investing more in your lens than in your camera would be, your camera body is important too. So this is one that I use a lot, and I actually have made a video on before. This is a Rokinon 12mm f2. It's a manual aperture, but this lens, guys, I got used for like $250. So again, if you want to buy that body, put that lens on it. It is a wide. You can zoom in and out, but it's an f2, so it allows you to do is get really nice and close to your subject at a wide. I call this as my fish slow-mo, my lens. And believe it or not, I mean, on the big setup I have, the FS5, I throw this thing on it all the time. And for a $250 lens, that has been absolutely gold for me. And so again, do some research in terms of what, not only what your budget is, but what you want your film to look like. I know that can be kind of overwhelming, but again, feel free to reach out to Kyle and I about exactly what you're looking for. But that 16 to 50, the ones it comes with, is going to get you off the ground. And we've said it before. We'll say it again on this video. We'll say it again on other videos. It has so much more to do with the time and effort you put into learning the fundamentals of shooting, framing, how to expose your image correctly, than the camera you're using. Because I can't tell you how many times I've run into people who will see someone shoot with a camera, see the picture they took with it, and say, I need that camera. When in reality,
some of the stuff that people pull off with GoPros, with basic mirrorlesses, with even older cameras, is you realize that there's so much more that goes into a picture than just the quality of the camera. It has to do with your light, your composition, your settings. And once you learn those basics of photography and how that transfers into videography, depending on what you want to get into, that is infinitely better than hopping into a camera that is just, you know, a really expensive camera that will do the work for you, because it should become second nature, right? Like how we kind of mentioned about this. Like, I want to be able to set my camera up that if I think it's too dark or too light, or if I'm trying to create a certain aspect or a certain frame someone a certain way, I want that stuff to be second nature long before I have to think if my camera gear is capable of it. And that's what the beauty of getting one of these cameras is that that it has all those options. It can teach you shutter speed and what your ISO is, and all these different things, which is the fundamentals of making a picture lighter or darker. And that's probably another video, Kyle. You know, we sit here and talk about what other options we have to what we can bring, and you know, going over the basic 3 ways to make your camera's image lighter or darker, and making that second nature in someone's mind is like, I wish I was lucky enough in college to take a photo class with a German professor. And the reason I laugh and smile is because she was like your stereotypical, she's a small girl, red hair, but she was a fireball. She was like all about like the strictness, and she didn't let anyone throw that camera on auto. Like, it was a photography class. You're going to learn how to do this. But once the foundation was laid, like about how to manipulate your image to do it what you want it to do, it transfers through everything, and it's nailing those fundamentals. Same thing with the GoPro. You can click auto and have it do it for you, and you can get into some pretty complex stuff with these things if you really want to. It's just about learning what those do to your image and capitalize on that. And it's just so much better off. You're so much better off taking the time and learning that stuff versus hopping into a camera that you think you need because someone told you, because it's got a $4,000 price point on it, and you're like, oh, then my pictures must be good because of it. We both would 10 times rather have you learn the right way, because you're gonna be grateful for it. It's just the right way to go about it.
There is no shortcuts in anything in life.
We talked about that.
There are no shortcuts, and I think that's key. You have to learn. You can buy the nicest camera, but you could still make a really cruddy film with that really nice camera. And I could go out with a cell phone and shoot a great film. It's your story. It's what you're shooting, and not to say that what you're shooting has to be interesting. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen very awesome like amazing stories that were shot in somebody's house, or, you know, with old footage. Like, so I think like the key is to like not focus too much on gear. And I know me and you kind of wanted to like emphasize that it's not the gear that you have. This is just these 2 options that we give you through the GoPro and the Sony A6300 or A6300 is just the starting blocks. If this is what you guys are trying to start shooting on, and different options we wanted to give you, these are 2 great options. The GoPro and the A6300, you can't go wrong with them. It depends on what you want to shoot for, like what you're trying to shoot. That's all it is. So those are 2 of kind of the options we wanted to give you. Both of them are great options, and I really don't think you can go wrong with either. It's just honestly what you're shooting, and to learn how to shoot with those things and how to shoot in general. Those are honestly the keys for in my personal opinion. Those are the keys. So,
100%. Well, like I said, there's opinion is a part of every one of these discussions, because this is just experiences that we've had. It changes in industry, it changes in budget, it changes in your timeline, all kinds of things. But like you mentioned, there's no shortcuts, and I think that is true not only in just this stuff, but in life as well. That you have to be willing to put the time and effort into. And yeah, it might be frustrating, yeah, it might be tough, but if it really is your ambition and your goal to create better content, start freelancing on the side, do this full time, that really is your deal. You'll put the time into it, and you'll put the effort into it. And for someone who's eager to learn, there's a lot of information out there. And again, we're hoping to touch on a lot of that ourselves as well. I mean, I think that's kind of it, Kyle. Without going too nitty gritty into the camera gear itself, about like settings and stuff like that, I think we hit in the note that again, it's more about your time and effort, and then getting a solid foundation of something that you can utilize that won't slow you down, whether it be your budget. One thing I didn't mention that I don't want to go too crazy gear intensive, but The A6000 will probably be even cheaper. The one drawback to that camera is it's a little bit older, and it will not allow you to do 120 frames a second. Now, that might be over your head right now, but if you're watching this and you're getting into this kind of thing, to be able to do some slow-mo once in a while and film in that higher frame rate is worth it. And I think the upgrade between the A6000 and A6300 might be $100. And so I don't think by saving that $100, you're gonna be glad and be able to put the money towards an extra lens. I think it's one of those things that is worth making. And that's why we said the 6300 or the 64, 65. They do that stuff and even more stuff. But the 63 is probably a really solid baseline. But I know we have it looks like 7,400 people watching. The questions are flooding in, and I'm not
divided by 10,000.
Yeah, how we're ever gonna get over these questions?
No, so we actually do have a question. I like this.
Yeah, I want to see it.
Yeah, so it says Hello Bass says the GoPro 4 for the money is the best for fishing videos. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm gonna touch on something real quick, because if Hello Bass, I think you said GoPro is life, like earlier. Yeah. Do you know JD from out in California? He's a Daiwa guy.
Yep.
Casey shoots a lot of his images. He sent me a message last night and said, "Hey man, anyone got any advice for a GoPro overheating?" And I sent him a message saying, "Yeah, dude, take your battery out." And he told me, he looked at me, he's like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, GoPros are made to run internally off of an external battery supply. Take your battery out, then plug it in." And he's like, "What do you mean? You mean turn it on, turn back off?" I'm like, "No, keep your battery out." And a lot of guys don't realize that while they're filming with the GoPro, if your battery is in and then you try and plug it into either external battery or maybe your cigarette lighter, your camera is going to try and charge that battery and then draw from that battery at the same time. And that battery, if it's above 70 degrees out and any kind of sun, within about a half an hour, it's going to overheat. I don't care what GoPro model you have. Take that battery out, plug it in, and it's almost like hardwiring it. And unfortunately, in that respect, you can't really keep it waterproof sealed, but that you can't really anyway with the battery in, and then you won't have the overheating issue. But to answer your question, Hello Bass, kind of what we touched on, depending on what kind of content you're looking to make, GoPros are the absolute best option to get you into a camera and producing content. If you have done it, crushed it, and you think that you've maxed out what you can do for a GoPro, then start putting money aside every paycheck and then start thinking about upgrading to maybe a camera that you can put some lenses with. But not that I've seen the stuff or I've seen most people's stuff, but I'm pretty sure that if someone looked at my content with a GoPro, they would say, "Sam, you're not utilizing your GoPro to its fullest potential." And I would agree with that. These things can do a lot, and you might have to dig a little bit to find some instruction on how to maximize it. You have to get creative. Rather be mounting it in a certain way, rather it be taking some cool frames. Whether I've seen guys put it on a little Vortex football, throw it and get slow-mo of it, going through the air. Dude, there's some amazing things you can do with these things because they're so small. Yeah. So I would encourage, depending on what you're trying to capture, that make sure you're utilizing your GoPro to its fullest potential. And if you just say, "Hey, I think I just need I want to be able to film some B-roll, get some close-ups, a shallow depth of field. I want to be able to put different lenses on." Then it's that time, and go for it. But like we stress, I'll always encourage the person to put more effort into being able to really utilize the tools that they have before they go spend money on something that they might be completely content with the product that they have if they start utilizing it better.
100%. And I would say also on top of that too is the reward you would get for, I think a GoPro Hero 4 is priced at $129, which is incredibly
right now because people are selling them. I bought a session for a drone a couple weeks back before the virus hit, and I think I paid $80 for it, and it was a session 5. Just because the guys are like, "Yeah, I'm not working, I need to get rid of it." You can find GoPros for pretty cheap.
Yep. But I would that too is for another $100-200, you could get a Hero 8, which I think there is a huge difference between the Hero 8 and the Hero 4. I would say you would greatly appreciate paying $200 just to go from the 4 to the 8. You would see a huge difference. Yeah, and just in image quality in terms of what you're able to do with it. So, Hello Bass, if you were curious on if you should upgrade from a 4 or what, I would highly recommend going to a Hero 8 for sure. No doubt.
A lot of guys have a hard time, they're worried about hitting settings and this is all touchscreen. It's all really easy, and you just tap it, and you can with the Hero 8. Kyle, like, do you have an 8 or do you have a 7 or do you have an 8 or like what do you shoot with now? Do you have a GoPro?
I don't shoot with GoPros as much anymore, but I use Brandon's GoPros. So
So the one so I had a 7 that I put on a drone for a project I was working on a couple weeks ago, and then I got an 8 for it, and you can save custom settings. Like, you know how like you have your M1, M2 on here in your dials. I can set up one that's like meant for vlogging, that's wide, and then I can set up one that's meant for looping. Like, you can save different settings, like 4 or 5 of them in here. So like you don't have to go through your settings to change your camera. You can just click a button and it's there. Like everything's through your phone. You can frame it up through your phone if you want. If you want to put your GoPro somewhere, get on your phone, go on the Wi-Fi, and frame up your shot and say, "Is this pointing where I want to go?" Like, it's super convenient. I can't stress enough how much of a tool they can be if you really want to put your time into it. So Joe says, like the answer, I mean the 7 will actually have 4, but no, I'm talking about it all. The 7 is the only difference. The 7 and the 8 is the camera got a little bit better and a couple more features, but like again, the average person probably won't notice a ton of difference. I will always stress I think I saw the 7 for like $50 less. If that $50 is a lot, and that's like, hey man, I don't really have that much money for it, then yeah, sure, go ahead and buy the 7. You're not gonna be disappointed with it. And I think there's still a lot you can do with it. But there's something to be said about buying something that's new, and again, the Hyper Smooth 2.0 and some of even the still settings you have on this thing are really neat. But Joe, I know you're obviously a big angler. Like, a lot of guys are buying GoPros to capture their fish catches, and in that respect, even some of the more basic ones could probably do that. But I agree with what Kyle said. I wouldn't go anything. Even if you can stay above a 6, even a 5 is okay. But like, I wouldn't go to a 4. A 4, it came out, I want to say 2013. So you're looking at technology that's been out for quite some time now. And if you're just looking to capture an angle, it's fine. But if you're looking to really up the production quality and be able to do some cool things, get crafty with it, I'd go with the 8 for sure.
I agree. And I don't want to get even more complex, but some of the 360 GoPro cameras are getting pretty interesting too. So
dude,
that's for another day.
Yeah, that's a whole nother discussion. In fact, there are some drawbacks with that because that's a huge file. And Kyle, I did one where I put one on my helmet for like a 7-minute run. I want to say the file size was over 20 gig, shooting 8K.
Wait, did you say you wore a helmet and you went on a run?
On a snowmobile run, not a.
No,
you run. You do not want to see me run, dude. Like, I'd be a sprinter in the first 100 yards. I would be there, dude, and I would probably pull something. I would get there, but like as soon as like the 3rd minute got there, I'd be like dying, passed outside the ground, like begging for a Diet Coke or something. Like, I would be dead.
I was literally picturing you wearing a helmet while you're running, though. I didn't know how Minnesota does it.
Dude, it's cold out there. You got to keep warm. You never know if a car's gonna hit you. It's just the right way to do it. Your parents never made you wear a helmet when you went outside. Was that just me?
It might have just been you, man. Here in Idaho, we have to carry potatoes with us wherever we go.
That's exactly right. So,
I want to say one more thing to Joe. Joe said something he's interested in the 360s, but the app is really horrible. I know the 360 app for the GoPro is really, really, really cool. And it's helpful. It's really easy. You literally can just drag where you want the camera to be, and then you can save that file. So you can control it all within your phone and then export it to your phone. And it's super, super helpful. Obviously the file sizes are going to be bigger if you're recording for a long period of time, like when you're fishing normally. But if you can figure out a way that you can cycle it after 2 minutes or 5 minutes, that's a great option. But honestly, the 360 filming, I think, will take over the filming or the fishing industry in terms of on-boat cameras for anglers. Just because of what you can do. I've seen stuff Brandon's done personally, just attaching it to the front of his trolling motor or the front of his boat, and then catching a fish. You can show the whole process from the hook set, everything. It's really cool. So definitely something to look into.
Hellabass, you're right on that in some respects. I think the only really way to do it is to try, and see what it can do. But I have what I would call a pretty high level production computer, and even when I tried to dabble with the 360 stuff, like I said, I think you have a chance to shoot it in like, I think it's 8K or 5.3 or something like that. And it's a large file. Now, again, I was doing like a 5-10 minute run at a time, but it takes a toll. So it's a lot of times you're right. You don't want to get something that is going to put a strain on your computer and you have to buy a new computer for. But as Kyle touched on, especially with the GoPro 360, I'm not sure what other companies have apps for support. That's one of the nice things with GoPro is the ability to grab the content that you just shot, manipulate it, and share it all from your phone. If that's what your goal is, I don't think there is a quicker system. Kyle and I could not go shoot with that, put it into our computer, edit it in Premiere or whatever, and then get it back to our phone to post in the time that you could probably do on your phone with those apps, especially the GoPro app. So
100%.
That's another big advantage of with the GoPro for guys that want to share and such is pretty good.
Yep. And then Tom said, what's a good editing software that's for free? I guess I would say personally, if you have a Mac, iMovie's great.
Hands down.
And then also, depending on what you're shooting on, there's mobile apps on your phone that you can edit with. GoPro has a good app that helps you edit, and is very, very much angled towards the beginner and editing. It's very simple, I would say, which is nice and not super complex. I know I edit in Premiere. I believe you edit in Premiere. Yep. That is a paid one. It's a monthly payment or a yearly payment, which I can't even remember how much it is anymore.
Premiere, I don't know. I pay with like other things, but it's somewhere around like probably $30 a month, or you can pay like $250 for the year, and it saves you a month or two or something.
But definitely start with the new one. Like if you're in editing, go cheap and free. So
and then DaVinci Resolve. I actually downloaded that probably like 3 or 4 months ago, because I know there's some avenues in their coloring software that people are raving about. I know you can edit video in there as well. I don't have any experience with it. Most companies that have an editing software, if it's a free version, they'll let you do your basic stuff. But I truly think that I think like even PC has like Windows Media Maker or something. I know a lot of guys that are YouTubers that have used iMovie or Video Maker for, and they have a couple 100,000 subscribers. I know one of them does a lot of stuff in the golf world, still edits everything in iMovie. I mean, I think it's a great tool for compiling, and really the only reason that guys like Kyle and I will step up from there is just for your tedious stuff. I mean, most stuff we could probably still do in iMovie. Some of the other platforms allow us to do some things a little more efficiently because you're doing it constantly. You're in there every other day. But to start at the level we're talking about, freaking iMovie was awesome. I edited iMovie for the longest time, even through college. All those YouTube videos I used to make and such, everything was in iMovie.
Heck yeah. No, I agree, man. 100%. Start small. I think the whole key of this little bit of an episode too, if we could sum it up, is to start small, start simple, and just put your time in. Like anything, no one's going to start with a $50,000 camera and just go straight into trying to make something. And if you do, you have a lot more money than I do. But what the basis of this is to start small. If you're filming with a GoPro, you're going to learn a lot through that. And if you feel the need to move up, a great next step option would be the A6300. It's a great camera. We're both Sony guys, but there's other options for beginner entry level cameras, but I would say Sony is your best for video in my personal opinion. So yeah, I don't know how we want to wrap this up. I keep seeing this. Is this little? It's over here. This little watermark duck.
The duck powered by StreamYard, and I was thinking about like, oh, he's gonna be pissed that I end up on his side.
Yeah. This is just. I need to make it look like I have like a picture back here. We could just like put like a picture frame somewhere on the wall, and I can.
Like you got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Right here.
And then the logo T. There you go.
Yep. And then like it makes it look like it's, or wait, gosh dang, it's backwards. Makes it look like it's not a watermark. But anyways, yeah, man, stoked first episode. They're gonna get more how would you say it, more not in depth, but there's going to be more interesting topics, and we want to hear from everybody on how they want and what they want to hear about. So yeah, man, I'm stoked. Episode 1 is in the books,
completed. Let us know if you have anything that you guys want us to touch on specifically. We have a good idea of what the next few could consist of that we think would be beneficial for you guys. I think they're going to range and diving in a little deeper with some things, but also we know there's a lot of product reviews and a lot of software review kind of things. And I think me and Kyle's goal for the most of this is to really just help incorporate some of the things that we in our own experiences encountered. And so that might be a little bit more situational based, from reaching out to people and clients to how to go about, starting your company, doing your own thing, to shooting on the side. And when do you know when to make that step? There's a lot of those questions that I think people can find tutorials on how to set up their camera. But they more want to know, like, how do I really make a run at doing something like this, and how I take my content to that next level. So that's the goal. I don't know when the next one's going to be. We say we're going to do one every week. I have a feeling that, like, I'm assuming Kyle, I'm all kinds of fired up about this. So, like, I already have an idea what the next one's going to be. So maybe we'll do in a couple of days and start cranking them out. But again, if you guys have any questions, make sure you comment below. I will put Kyle's social on the bottom. If you guys don't follow Kyle, you need to be. He does some phenomenal stuff, not only with just Brandon. I think people think, like, oh, he's just Brandon's guy. Like, dude, he does all kinds of stuff outside of just fishing, like you mentioned at kind of the start of this. And it's he's always pushing the envelope on what content can look like. So I'll put his stuff on the bottom for sure. And I guess we'll see you guys next time we do it, eh?
Yeah, it's weird not doing like an outro on a YouTube video. We're like, ready? Wait, you gotta get next. How do we end it? No, you gotta end it, but we'll do like the.
What about like? Hold on. What about like? See, I'm pushing that. That's how it's backwards for me.
Wait, high five. Wait, no,
it's backwards. Ready? And 3, 2, 1. Just hit the. Yeah.
No, you're too far. Are you too far? Where's the barrier?
My barrier is right here. There you go.
This should be the thumbnail.
You make me look super like light now, but like I feel like I'm pretty dark. Like, if you compare this to like my actual skin tone, I'm freaking tan. My hands are tan.
Well, we got. You guys don't get. We get sun right now. Well, you guys probably got sun too.
If I like held this up to my stomach, like, it would be like bleach white versus like black. Because like on my hands, the only things this time of year in Minnesota. And what we do is the sun a rain gear on, so like we only get tan on our hands and maybe our feet if we're wearing flip flops.
Well, there's a truth to the fishing tan. The fishing tan's a real thing too.
Oh,
you get the sandal tan, everything. But I saw your sandal tan last year. Your sandal tan last year was pretty nuts, man. So,
dude, and I had those pair of sandals, the UA ones I had, I lost. And so now I'm without sandals. I should have been working on my sandal tan already, and I haven't been, and I'm kind of disappointed about it. Not salty.
Hey, we gotta get your sandal tan back up to par again this year.
All right, thanks guys. Till next time. Appreciate you watching. See ya. Peace. Toodaloo. See if we can do it. And boom.
Yeah, no.
We'll get it one of these days. See you guys.
Better.